travel like gypsies in the night. I build a home and wait for someone to tear it down, then pack it up in boxes, head for the next town running. 'Cause I've got memories and travel like gypsies in the night.
Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to the second session of the first day. We have 2 people online now. Leonardo, Mauro, can you hear me well? Okay, so we can't hear you, Leo. Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, so now you can hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Well, good morning for those who are watching us from Brazil and the United States. Good afternoon for those who are in Europe and Africa. And good evening for those who are in Asia. My name is Leonardo, Senior Account Manager at Aker Solutions Brazil. And today I have the honor to be the chairman and welcome you all for the second session of the 6th edition of the Aker Solutions Innovation Week. That's, by the way, it's been this is the very first time that it crosses the borders of the company in a live broadcast in YouTube. Whoa. For the next hour and a half, we will bring you the energy transition world, one of the main drivers for Aker Solutions, from where we plan to have more than 50% of the revenue of Brazil within this decade still. A challenge indeed. And to reach such an ambitious goal, Brazil plays a key role in the global strategy of the company. And that's why we are locally engaging in initiatives as the HISEP project from Petrobras and the all-electric Christmas tree GAP with Total and Equinor, for instance. But that's not enough for us. We are also setting a huge effort globally in initiatives as the subsea electrification, where power cables arise as one of the main enablers. For this session, that is called Energy Transition Solutions, Brazil versus Global, I have the pleasure to have by my side moderating the panel, Fernanda Pedo. Welcome, Fernanda.
Thank you very much, Leonardo. So my name is Fernanda Pedo. I'm Business and Market Strategy Specialist here at Aker Solutions, and I'm very, very happy to be here and be part of this session and such relevant discussion. And indeed, as Leonardo mentioned, energy transition is a very important topic and agenda for Aker Solutions. And this session couldn't be more timely, as we heard from our CEO yesterday, that Aker Solutions is an important contributor to both energy security and energy transition. And in Brazil, it's hard to talk about energy transition and don't think about Prumo Logística and Porto do Açu, as well as ABEEólica. That's why we have the honor to have with us today Mauro Andrade and Elbia Gannoum, who will be online, and Dalton Damoulis, who is here with me in presence. So thank you very much for accepting this invitation and be part of our session here today. In the QR code, you can scan and raise your questions online, and for the ones present here, you can scan the QR code. So let me pass here. It's not passing the slide. Okay, so a quick intro from our special guests. So Mauro is the Business Development Executive at Prumo Logística and also a member of the Board of Directors at Gás Natural Açu. With more than 20 years actuating in the energy sector, Mauro is Master's Economist and has an oil and gas specialization from UFRJ, as well as a Project Executive Program from University of California. Elbia is the CEO of ABEEólica, where she's already for a decade now and has been active strengthening the sustainable growth of wind segment in Brazil. She's also a vice chair of Global Wind Energy Council and has been active in the global debates about the diversity of the energy sector. Active and empowering women career in the wind industry, Elbia was recognized in 2019 with the Clean Energy Education and Empowerment Women of Distinction Award, and since 2020 is the Global Ambassador representing Brazil in the Women Wind Global Leadership Program. Elbia holds a PhD and has more than 20 years in the energy sector. Elbia had a small conflict of agenda, so she will be joining us in a few minutes. Dalton works at Aker Solutions for almost 9 years now and has an active participation in the performance and transformation team globally. In the last 2 years, Dalton has been responsible for the renewable segment and has recently shifted back to the subsea to continue adding value to our customers. Mechanical engineer by heart, Dalton also holds an MBA in strategic and managerial administration. So, thank you again for you all to accept our invitation to be here in this very, very strategic and important discussion. Dalton, the floor is yours. Our session will be split into 10 minutes presentation for each guest, followed by a debate. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So, my pleasure to be here today, and so I expect to share what I learned in the last 2 years in the renewables segment. So then I'd like to start the presentation sharing with you. Let me...
I think he's shifting slides.
Okay, but anyway, so then we'll fix this, but I'd like to start my presentation, reminding you about our purpose, you know. So the Aker Solution has one purpose, as you know, I think that the most of you are familiar with. We solve global energy challenges for future generations. This is our target. Doesn't matter what is your segment, what is your function, we are here to solve global energy challenges for future generations. And it's important also to remind what is our main target, what is our main ambition, you know? When you talk about low carbon and renewables, we have, here we solve global energy, so now it's okay. So we have renewables and low carbon solutions for different areas, for different applications. And it's important to remind our key target. You know, so in 2030, we have the ambitions to achieve 2/3 of our total revenue in low carbon solutions and renewables. So then here we have some examples that we can mention. CCUS, carbon capture, usage and storage and hydrogen, renewables, low carbon concepts, digital solutions, natural gas, energy optimization, electrification, CO2 storage. These are the main topics that we are concentrating our focus as a company. And again, it doesn't matter if you're talking about the subsea divisions or renewables or engineer consultancy or topside and facilities. All of us, we are engaged to make it happen. But it's my target today is to explain a bit what we are doing, what we have been doing as a company when you talk about renewables. Inside of our group, the Aker ASA, we have 2 different companies when you talk about renewables. We have the Aker Horizons and the Aker Solutions, the renewables division inside the Aker Solutions. The Aker Horizons, as you can see here in the slide, Aker Horizon is dedicated to incubating and developing companies that solve fundamental challenges to sustainable existence, strongly connected with our purpose. And here we have 4 different companies: Aker Offshore Wind, Aker Carbon Capture, Aker Clean Hydrogen in the mainstream. Aker Offshore Wind, so our key focus in this division is to develop float wind for deep water. carbon capture, the main task, the main focus here is to develop new technologies for carbon capture, usage, and storage. The Aker Clean Hydrogen is the same. We expect to develop and introduce new technologies in the market related to the hydrogen and produce hydrogen through this division. And the mainstream is the division responsible for other types of renewables energy. For instance, solar, onshore wind, and offshore wind for shallow waters. So basically, this is Aker Horizons. And how about Aker Solutions? Aker Solutions, what we do, so powered by digital technologies, strategic partnerships. It's important to highlight that we are establishing some strategic partnerships with the market because we cannot do alone. We cannot do this by ourselves. It's important to consider some strategic partners to enhance our energy transition. And then we have a strong culture of solving problems. We deliver complex energy projects in a safe, predictable, and sustainable way. And how about renewables inside the Aker Solutions? Renewables, we have some divisions: offshore wind, carbon capture, hydrogen, and aquaculture. Aquaculture is more specific to the Norway market, but I will focus on the offshore wind, carbon capture, and hydrogen. The connection between Aker Horizons and Aker Solutions, I will show in the next slide. So as you can see, this is our ecosystem. So in terms of asset owners, the developers, the companies that will develop the technologies with some strategic partners, we have Aker BP. It's not the focus today, but my pleasure to talk to you about it in the future. But Aker Offshore Wind, Aker Clean Hydrogen, and the mainstreams. So these are the companies that will develop technologies for the renewables market and the low carbon transition. The project management execution, Aker Solutions. We are expert on that. We are expert on develop and manage complex projects. We have expertise on that. So then the technology and tools. We have our technology companies, AZE and Cognite. They will support us during the digital transformation because we have to combine renewables market, the low transition, the low carbon transition with the digital transformation. So then the combination will make by Cognite and AZE. So then we have offshore wind, part of the Aker Horizon, in partnership with Principal Power. Principal Power is one of our strategic partner to develop float wind. So then we are developing the float wind technology for deep water in partnership with Principal Power. Aker Solutions, so then inside of Aker Solutions, in terms of technology and tools, we have Subsea, as Leonardo Moura mentioned, some projects that we are developing at the moment. So we have engineer consultancy, we have EMM, we have topside and facilities, and renewables, of course. Then we have carbon capture and mainstream. But our focus areas in the collaboration models. As I highlighted before, it's important to establish the key strategic partners to promote the collaboration between us and our strategic partners, and also between us inside. So then we have, all of us, we have to be part of this journey. So then collaboration models is one of the key elements. Technology ownership, if you want to get one part of this market share, this new market share, so it's important to develop our own technologies. And then the exclusivity, once we have our own technology, for sure in certain markets, we'll have some exclusivity. And the governance. It's important to correlate the governance with ESG. I know that today in the afternoon there will be another session related to this, but it's important to highlight the connection between the governance with the ESG. We have a strong connection. And then our ambition is creating a win-win solution for Aker family's entities and also to our customers and to the market. And then to conclude my initial presentation, so it's important to highlight this difference between Aker Horizons and Aker Solutions, as we are part of Aker Solutions company. So Aker Solutions position as a project management execution muscle and ensure close collaboration, developing and executing reference projects and new offerings in 4 different steps. First, cement our position as the execution muscle for the Aker Horizons company. Second, ensure close collaboration in developing new offerings and solutions. Third, align on roles and responsibility. It's important to define who is responsible for what and when. And then focus on jointly developing reference projects across markets. So basically, this is the overview between Aker Solutions and Aker Horizon and how we are working together, working together on this journey called energy transition. That's it.
Thank you very much, Dalton. Thank you for the presentation. It definitely gave the audience a very good review about how Aker Solutions is positioned in terms of the energy transition and our capabilities as well. So, hi Mauro. It's a pleasure to talk to you again. It's a pleasure to have you with us for this session. Please tell us how Porto do Açu is being prepared for the energy transition. The floor is yours, Mauro.
Thank you, Leonardo. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, we
loud
can
and
hear
clear.
you
Very
well.
good. Very good. Thank you, Leonardo and Fernanda, for the kind invitation to share a little bit with you the perspectives of Prumo and Porto do Açu. I will try to share a presentation with you. You let me know if this is going to work. Yes, here we go.
Yes.
Should I pass the slides here? Yeah?
Just a second, Mauro. I think we have a delay of the presentation here.
I can see my screen already, so.
Okay, here in the transmission is to the Aker Solutions screen. Yes, now we can see it.
Very good. Thank you very much. For those who are not very familiar with Prumo and Porto do Açu, it's a quick recap just to let you know who we are and what we do. Prumo is a holding company that is controlled by 2 private funds, EIG, a private fund based in the US, and Mubadala, the sovereign fund of the Emirates. And Prumo has investments in 6 joint ventures. One of the joint ventures is actually the Porto do Açu. So all the other companies are physically located in the Porto do Açu. So Porto do Açu is a private port located in the north of Rio de Janeiro state. It's only 8 years old, but it's already a reality. It's about 5,000 to 6,000 people work in the port on a daily basis. It is already the 2nd biggest port in Brazil in terms of cargo handling. And it's currently based on ship-to-ship transfer of crude oil, iron ore terminal. There is a gas-fired thermal plant in there. And we serve a lot of the oil and gas industry from the port. I'm pretty sure that I've saw already vessels from Aker going on the port. But despite being very related to the existing business on fossil fuels and iron ore, Porto do Açu has a very clear view on the energy transition. And we have big ambitions when it comes to become a low-carbon hub at the Rio de Janeiro state. The reasons that we believe we can become a low-carbon hub in Rio de Janeiro is twofold. First, is because we have a lot of land and we have the elements to industrialize the area based on low-carbon industry. Which are these elements? It's basically availability of renewable energy and making a very huge bet on decarbonizing some segments in Brazil, which are very competitive segments on a worldwide basis already, such as iron ore and fertilizers. So Prumo wants to be a catalyst on the low-carbon industry, and we want to connect both the supply and demand of renewable energy in the same place. Luckily enough, the port is located in front of one of the best areas for offshore wind potential in Brazil. So there's an enormous effort now to attract industries to be installed in the port that will be part of this energy revolution in the near future. By connecting both energy supply and demand in the same place, we also want to attract the supplier of this future value chain for the energy transition in Brazil, such as tier 1 and 2 suppliers into the port, for example, for the offshore wind segment. So we can see that in the future, the port will become an industrial hub for production of wind turbines, blades, nacelles, eventually electrical equipment, also cables. So there will be a significant role that companies like Aker Solutions, for example, can take in this market in Brazil in the near future. So basically, we are developers. We make a catalyst of investments into the port. And in the specific case of offshore wind and solar, we are developing solar projects at the port to be able to serve the clients at the port with renewable energy. But in the case of offshore wind, we will probably become a very important installation in commissioning and operations hub for the offshore wind projects in front of Porto do Açu. This is just a picture of the port. I will allow to share this presentation with you later on, but just to show this is a reality. You will see that there's a lot of occupied area in the port, but you also see that the gray area on the top of your screen has approximately 50 square kilometers of availability to use for future industrialization. So the port is a reality. It is based on the industries of the last century, let's call it this way, but we are having a very firm plan and ambition to make this port the port of the future in industries as well. This is just to share our view, to summarize what I'm describing to you as our ambition. We want to promote the low carbon industrialization in the port, basically leveraging on the abilities that we have for both inbound and outbound logistics, but also, as I have described it to you before, on the availability of renewable energy that is going to be available in the port in the next few years. So our vision is clear, is to use the renewable energy to either put on the grid or to produce hydrogen, mainly as a feedstock for industrialization of low carbon industries. More specifically, we are talking about hydrogen projects related to the steel mill industry, for example, hot briquette iron, to make hot briquette iron at the port with starting with natural gas and then migrating into green hydrogen. We also see a lot of potential in this industrial complex to produce fertilizers based on green ammonia. As you may well know, Brazil is a big importer of fertilizers, which is an important feedstock for our agribusiness exports, but we import a lot of this key feedstock. And we also see the merits of exploring the usage of hydrogen for other types of industrialization, such as glass and lower steel products, lower complexity steel products. But we also see our ability as a port to use hydrogen powered by renewable energy, green hydrogen, therefore, for mobility. We have tug vessels, we have different types of vessels operating in the port, and also the trucks and buses that are extensively used in the port. We can see clear opportunities to use green hydrogen to fuel these vehicles. So in a nutshell, what we see is a fantastic opportunity in a single place to make the energy transition a reality. And of course, that this is not going to be made by ourselves only. Prumo can eventually be an investor in some of these ventures, but this is going to be made by an ecosystem of investors, project owners, contractors, environmental consultancies, logistics, and supply chain companies. So this is a quick a quick summary of our vision on how a port in the north of Rio de Janeiro state can be used as a tool to support the energy transition, and also as a potential place for suppliers in the future, like Aker Solutions, to be located in this hub. So I will close here, Leonardo and Fernanda, and allow time later on for questions.
Thank you very much, Mauro. Impressive, and impressive to see the size of the port, how many renewables or energy transition solutions the port is already a reality, but also in terms of planning and strategy. And of course, Aker Solutions is more than happy to partner with Porto do Açu in this journey. So now we have Elbia connected with us. Can you hear us, Elbia?
Hello.
Hi. Welcome, Elbia. Thank you very much for joining us, and we are glad to have you here. Great, we can see you all. Great. What a massive team here in the screen, right? So, good. So, Elbia, we are curious to learn more about ABEEólica and the energy transition in Brazil. We'll be sharing the slides from here, and I'll be passing the slides, so just give me a sign or okay, and I pass it to you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Leonardo, Mauro.
We are projecting now.
Yeah, then you will control, yes?
Yes, I'll pass the slides here. Yeah, I think it's to avoid some delays.
Yeah.
Yes, good. Now, can you see the presentation from there, Elbia?
Yes,
Great.
I can see.
So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So then when we talk about the energy transition solutions, Brazil versus global, it's interesting that we use to say that Brazil has a very important role in this discussion, exactly because we have a lot of renewable sources for energy and the electricity, and it's a base. And when we see this discussion and the whole of ABEEólica, I believe that we have a lot to contribute in this process. Let's go for the next one. Then the point here is about when we talking about to reach net zero in 2050 and try avoid to increase the temperature more than 1.5 in the world. And we believe that wind has a very, very contribution in this process. We have a report from GWEC that we launched a report in 2020, 2021. In 2021, we work in a very important initiative that is a global coalition for increased investments in wind offshore. And in this year, we just launched reporting with this initiative in order to ask the world to invest in offshore wind. We say mainly offshore wind because the mostly part, the world has big potential for offshore wind. It's different in Brazil because Brazil, we have a lot of potential for onshore and you have a lot of potential for offshore. But the point is that in 2020, when Brazil started this discussion with GWEC, and then I become a vice president in GWEC too, we noticed that we need to join the discussion about offshore because we are looking only for onshore wind because we have a very big potential. But we noticed that there are a big opportunity to attract investors and to create an industrial process. It's not only produce megawatt hour is about producing energy from offshore, but made attract investments and create an important base that, as said Mauro, and it's a big opportunity for us. So when you talk about the world, the data from 2020 is very interesting because in 2020, the world getting a record for investments for wind. In 2020, the world increased the system with 86.1 gigawatts installed capacity. It was the record in despite of a pandemic crisis. In 2021, we increased it a lot. It's not a record, but we increased 83.6 gigawatts. But there a very interesting point here. In 2020, we increased 6.9 gigawatts in offshore wind. In 2021, we increased 21 gigawatts. It was a record for offshore wind in the world. In despite of this record in 2020, in 2021, it's a lot of investments. We know that based with AIA agents about investments, we need to put 4 times more for investments in wind until 2030 in order to reach net zero in 2050. It means that wind has a very important role in this process. The numbers shows that in 2050, we will have 2 terawatts installed capacity for offshore, and the others in onshore wind. Then it means that we need to increase a lot investments in wind in whole world. The next one, please. So, in the way you can think, oh my God, it's a lot of investments. We need a lot of money to make these investments. But I see in this situation with a very happy face, because we know that there are a lot of money in the world. Money is not problem. We need to have big projects, important projects, and we need to have an environment to attract investments. Then I see a lot of opportunity in this process. Brazil, mainly since 2020, the agenda for ESG is so strong. Companies, investors, consumers, mainly consumers in free market are contract a lot wind because ESG agenda. I believe that we have a big opportunity for economy here in Brazil, in the other countries, for economic recovery opportunity, because energy is infrastructure investments, a lot of money can bring for countries that increase the economy. It's very important. I believe that energy is a very important variable to increase the economy. It's a variable, it's a determined variable to increase the economy. We have opportunity to export when you see about produce green commodities, for example, produce or products that we export for the rest of the world. It's a good opportunity. And when you think about new technologies like green hydrogen, in the future that is tomorrow, 3 or 4 years, we can start to export green ammonia, for example, and green hydrogen in short-term future. Then these new technologies, and we can put the hybrid plants, for example, wind and solar working together. And we have a possibility and capacity to increase so fast or install capacity to produce renewable to uh, um, to produce renewables and supply plants for green hydrogen. The next one, please. Right now, we are working in order to create the regulatory framework for investments in offshore wind. Ports, like Mauro said, we have opportunity to improve our infrastructure of ports for producing offshore wind, to produce hydrogen, mainly green hydrogen. For this reason, we are working hard in this time to have a regulatory framework. Recently, actually, in the last week, the Ministry of Mines and the Energy launching the two portarias. Portarias, I don't know to say this in English, but is a base, is a regulatory framework after decree that will give the mailing holds for public offer for area in the sea to produce offshore wind. The next one, please. I have 1 minute, I know. So then this regulatory framework is the main point. I believe that with this regulatory framework in the next year, in the first quarter, I believe that we can work in order to have the first public offer for session of the areas to start study areas to get environment license. I believe in 2 or 3 years after session, we will have the first license ready to start to construction or offshore wind projects in free market or in ocean. In ocean, then we can have in regulated market to hunt with our projects for offshore wind. I believe that in the end of this decade, so tomorrow, we'll have the first site working in generation electricity from sea. I think it's all. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Elbia, for sharing with us such important data and figures with regards to the role of the wind power for the energy transition in Brazil. Okay? Thank you very much. Now it's time for the panel. And I'd like to raise the first question to Mauro. Mauro, Porto do Açu is a hub with several different companies and areas with high carbon intensity. What are the hurdles you foresee or those companies may face to meet the Porto do Açu targets to become a green port? What will be the main adaptations for those companies? What they will need in order to turn the Porto do Açu a green port?
Leonardo, I think I'm going to answer your question in 2 parts. The first part is to decarbonize or lower the intensity of emissions from the existing clients at the port. Then there are 2 routes to do that. I think the first route would be, for example, offering to some of our clients renewable energy produced at the port. These clients could actually buy renewable energy with certificates from the grid if they want, of course. But if we're able to move forward with our solar plant at the port, for example, we can serve these clients on a free market and an off-grid type of arrangement, which will make this renewable energy extremely competitive. So within this first part, helping our clients to reduce their emissions, helping the clients to decarbonize their activities, is something very concrete. Still on that point, you can think about more bold movements in terms of decarbonization. For example, a lot of vessels, the ship-to-ship terminal that we have inside of the port, which is the transshipment of crude terminal that we have inside of the port, is already responsible for 35% of the total Brazilian exports of crude. So 35% of all the crude exported by Brazil passes through our terminal. Imagine if I can offer an electrification of these vessels while these vessels are berthed in the port. So we could reduce tremendously the emissions of these vessels because they currently are run either on marine gas oil or on a fuel oil. So that is, for example, a second alternative within this first bucket of initiatives to try to decarbonize the existing clients in the port. When we look at the second pillar of our strategy, then it's attractive new industries that will be part of the energy transition. So we are working, as I've mentioned to you, very thoughtfully to try to attract a hotted briquette iron. For those who are not familiar with that, is a technology to produce briquettes of iron ore, extremely concentrated, that can be used by the steel makers. And just by replacing the pig iron with the HBI, with the hotted briquette iron, you will reduce tremendously the emissions of the steelmaking industry. Why? Because this hotted briquette iron is produced in a much more efficient way. It is a transition. It will start with natural gas, but can be replaced by green hydrogen along the way. So there are certain movements that we are doing to attract investments into the port that dialogue with a broader picture of renewable energy availability. Even the hydrogen production in itself, in which we already have a project announced with Shell that will start in 2025, that hydrogen can be used, for example, for hard to abate segments, or can be used to replace existing hydrogen consumption in Brazil or in the Southeast region that is currently made with gray hydrogen, with hydrogen from fossil fuels. So there's a lot of opportunities for us in our ambition. So there's one very concrete set of actions related to the clients that are already in the port and needs to decarbonize the current operations. And there is another concrete set of actions to attract the industries of the future with low carbon emissions. So I think it's a journey. As I said in the end of my presentation, it will require a lot of players. It will require investors, it will require environmental consultants, it will require suppliers to be able to deliver that. Let's remember that a transition is a transition in itself, right? So you need to go from point A to point B. And during a certain period of time, different energy sources will coexist in this transition. So that's how we are looking our ambition to become a low carbon hub.
Thank you very much, Mauro. And it's impressive, as we saw in the presentation, both the size of the port as an infrastructure hub, and as you mentioned in your speech now, 35% of the crude exports passing through there. And connecting to that, Elbia, you also presented that almost 170 gigawatts are in the process of licensing for offshore wind. And I'll mix with a question for the audience, the question that I'll make for you. So considering the logistics in this heavy industry, as well as the connection to the grid aspect, which is very important, how do you see that impacting the development of offshore wind prioritization by region in Brazil? And if there is any bottleneck that is foreseen already, there are any projects or plans in place to overcome it? As we saw, the onshore wind, there was a big development in the country, but we are still walking through getting the offshore wind development.
Yeah, this is a very good question. Yes, we have been discussing about the infrastructure process for offshore wind, and the main infrastructure is ports, of course, and the transmission line. Then when we see our potential, we have a potential in whole coast, since Rio Grande do Norte until Rio Grande do Sul. And if you think, because the regulatory process, the decree says that we have two kinds of authorization or two kinds of session. It's a planned session and the independent session. This 170 gigawatts in environment license process shows that market has been going so fast, more, much more faster than the government. In my opinion, about based my experience in electricity sector for 22 years, if the market is pointing the potential, I don't believe that for starting offshore wind, it's not necessary to prepare a planned session. I don't believe that government has no timing, has no money, has no knowledge to prepare a session, planned session, because it will take time. As the market is giving a good sign about the potential, it's important to receive proposals from independent session, as we say JIPs. Then, if we suppose that the first process will come from JIPs, I believe that the market will choose the best position to start with this. Then I believe the first projects will bring from regions that we have two main infrastructure, ports and the infrastructure. If you see in the region in Southwest, and we see region in Rio de Janeiro, Espírito Santo, Rio de Janeiro, because Porto do Açu, we know this region, we have transmission lines, because here is a region that we have more infrastructure for transmission lines. We have Rio Grande do Sul with ports that's good, and we have in the northeast Ceará, Pernambuco with Pecém, with Suape. And we have this port that is ready to receive this investment. Oh, they need to make, it's not a lot adjustment to receive this investment. Then I see the potential in this region right now for starting with process. But it's a potential for potential, because we know that I believe that the way for starting the first project will be in the place that the market will say. If you suppose that project will start with independent session, that I think it is the way that I bet. I believe that the first project will start in this region that we have this infrastructure, and this first project will start with the independent process, with JIPs. Then I believe that Porto do Açu and the region in Rio de Janeiro, Espírito Santo, it's a very good candidate for this, Pecém, and the Rio Grande do Sul too.
You're on mute, Leo.
Okay, sorry. Thank you very much, Elbia, for your thoughts, for sharing your thoughts. And now I will handle the next question for Dalton. Dalton, Mauro and Elbia, they brought a great overview of the challenges to overcome by local players and entities. How does the international players and governments are struggling themselves abroad? How is Aker Solutions contributing to the success of their initiatives and plans? Tell me your vision about it, and due to your experience abroad.
Okay, thank you for asking this question, Leonardo. But it's important to highlight that we and the market, we are learning how to operate in the renewables market in the world. This is the reality, you know? Since the Paris Agreement, since the COP26, you know, we have been discussing a lot how to operate in the renewables market. Of course, that we are starting operating in some European market and North American market, and I think that we have been learning a lot. First, we are learning how to understand better the regulations in the countries. Every country, they have their own regulations, and then we have to be prepared to attend the regulations. Unfortunately, we don't have one standardized regulations, what is a challenge for us as an operator, as a supplier. So then I think that we have been learning a lot. And then we have some challenges. When you talk about renewables, we have different climate conditions in the world. So then we have to adapt our technology and our products to fit for these variables that we have around the world. So if you take into account the North American conditions, the UK conditions, especially in Scotland, or in Norway, in the North Sea. So here in Brazil, we have to take into account all of these variables. The technology is available, but it's up to the suppliers to adopt and adapt the technology to serve for its purpose. So then we have been learning a lot, but I think that we as Aker Solutions, based on what we have been learning in the last 2 years or more, because it's important to highlight that we started our renewables journey not 2 years ago. Actually, we started in Kvaerner, what is part of the group before the merger that we know that happened in the end of 2020. But we have some experience. And I'd like to highlight two different groups of experience that we can share with the market that can contribute for the future, as highlighted by Elbia and Mauro here in Brazil. The first group that I'd like to highlight is our expertise in terms of project execution. You know, we are experts to run complex projects in the energy area. So then I think it's important because we have the ambition to have the system integrator. And then we will use our expertise in the EPCI management to run projects in an efficient way. So this is the group number one. But the second group is what we have been offering to the market. You know, our expertise. When you talk about offshore wind, of course that we have some strategic partners, as I highlighted before. But how about our technologies? So we can offer to the market solutions in terms of transmissions platform, foundations. We have some guys experts in the concrete solutions for shallow waters. We are experts on delivering jacket winds for shallow waters as well. We have a partnership with PPA to develop float wind. So I think that we can get all of this experience, and I could also highlight our potential technology in terms of cable, the dynamic cables that we can offer to the offshore wind market as well. So then I think that we are prepared to offer some complete offshore wind solutions to the market. Doesn't matter if you are talking about UK, North America, Europe, Brazil. But it's important to highlight that at this point of time, we are concentrating our focus in the North America and the UK market, what we have been learning a lot, and Brazil and other important points in the world are in the pipeline to be the next. So the idea to take our experience that we are accumulating on the ongoing projects and then apply this experience to enable new projects here in Brazil, for instance.
Thank you very much, Dalton. And that's two parts of your speech that's very interesting, that connects well to the last Elbia's speech, is that we have different solutions, and here in Brazil we have different areas and different opportunities and challenges. And the second part that you mentioned about regulations, and Elbia also in the presentation showed a very detailed movement and how the regulations in Brazil are developing. So a question for you, Elbia. From what you showed, and you mentioned that's a lot of huge efforts and a lot of things are moving on in terms of regulations. And how do you see the movements and incentives, both in terms of development speed and also the operators' interest, right, for those offshore wind farms, for successful offshore wind business in Brazil?
Yeah. For offshore, I believe that we had the same experience for onshore, but for offshore, we can see this faster. The investors, they have a much more speed than regulators and the policymakers, because they notice your potential and they start to talk with the authorities about the potential. About for after this, the investors start to talk in your door and they say, oh, there are potential for offshore, maybe Brazil needs to start. After this, institutions like EPE prepared the first roadmap, and after this, IBAMA started the first terms of reference. I believe the investors in private markets is going faster than the government. It is important because I could use this argument with the policymaker to start the regulatory framework. I remember that in 2021, when I had the first meeting with Minister Bento, I said, Minister, there are a lot of investors here. There are a lot of projects in process for an environment license. We need to prepare the regulatory framework because the market wants to do this and they want to do this right now. And for this reason, we start with regulatory framework. Of course, we don't to start with industry only with regulatory framework, but I believe that is the point that we need to start. Now, I see investors, developers looking for partnership, looking for cooperation. There are a lot of MOU that they are signing with ports like Porto do Açu, Porto do Pecém. The investors are prepared the supply chain and the services. We know that there are a lot to do. We are doing it now. ABEEólica, we are working with our investors and looking for opportunities to try to bring components, supply chain, and prepare a big discussion with in order to construct the whole value chain for this industry. Actually, things is happen in the same time. The same time that our discussion, regulatory framework, we are discussion partnership, why we are trying to bring experience. We are trying to bring companies like Aker solutions to bring solutions for this sector. We are constructing this industry right now. We are not constructing the future. We are constructing right now. And it's very important to bring these investors to prepare for this market because this market will start and increase so fast and you cannot put your time in the waste.
Thank you, Elbia. It's very important to hear you saying that everything is currently happening. And also, another important topic is that how fast the investors push the market, faster than the government, faster than everything. And in that sense, I will raise a question for Mauro. Mauro, we know that Porto do Açu released an investment of 22 billion for the next 5 years. And obviously, as you already mentioned, it will unlock many opportunities, many core opportunities there. But we also have a potential opportunity for R&D development because we have many funds that we may use. Please, can you elaborate a little bit about it? How can these funds, either from ANP or ANL, can help Porto do Açu to populate your area and to bring not only people, but knowledge to the business?
Thank you, Leonardo. Quite interesting question because it allows me to explore two aspects. First is the competence. The last part of your question is the competence. I think as Elbia has very well said, and also your colleague from Aker Solutions before, the development of renewable energy industry in Brazil in general, solar, offshore wind, will benefit tremendously from the competence that Brazil has already built on several fields and segments. For example, the offshore wind business will benefit tremendously from the knowledge and competence of the offshore oil and gas industry in Brazil, just to give you an example. When it comes to the R&D projects, some of the projects that we have announced at Porto do Açu, notably the green hydrogen project with Shell, they came from an R&D perspective. Why these R&D projects are so important? Because they de-risk tremendously the investment in capital in some of these areas, such as green hydrogen, which are still extremely immature from a commercial point of view, from a business point of view. So by bringing R&D funds, you de-risk the venture, and you allow more time to actually find out technical solutions that will improve the performance of this project. It will be the same with offshore wind. I wouldn't be surprised, for example, if R&D funds for the oil and gas companies can also be used, for example, to do some sort of a small-scale projects of offshore wind, hopefully in the coast of Southeast, because then it will benefit Açu. But it's a way to de-risk the capital investment that you're going to do in this project. There are also opportunities of synergies between those R&D investments. For example, can we combine R&D investments for generating offshore wind in pilot projects to feed the green hydrogen projects that we are also developing, or the Shell is also developing, the Porto do Açu, which is in itself an R&D project. Can we think, for example, in having an R&D project focusing only on handling green ammonia, which is something that has its own complexities and peculiarities? Can we have R&D projects, for example, with GNA, our thermal plant in the port, located in the port that has also R&D obligations? Can we combine, for example, solar energy with thermal power energy? Can we think about an R&D project in batteries? So the menu of opportunities is just immense. I like to tell to my clients in the future, or potential clients in Porto do Açu, that Porto do Açu is a playground for testing as well, since we have part of the infrastructure already there. So it is a long answer to your question, Leonardo, but I think it's the R&D plays a very important role when we are de-risking investments in some of these areas that are still in the infant ages of their business.
Great. Thank you very much, Mauro. And one thing that Dalton mentioned, and you also mentioned in your last speech, talking about the bricks industry and using natural gas, is that it's a transition, right? So we maybe don't have the solutions right now, but we are evolving on that. Elbia also brought that in her speech. So the numbers in terms of investment and strategy are huge, and it looks like a promising strategy for the port in the years ahead. So it's crystal clear that energy transition is not only a world-class worry, but we have very important and big players working to make it happen, as this great public here discussing that with us today. Dalton, can you share what the lessons learned from globally abroad that we can leverage locally, and how do you see Aker Solutions capabilities, specifically talking here, as a good fit to helping solving the global energy challenges?
Yeah, I think that I can share some lessons learned from the last years. So first, I think that our EPC competencies and capabilities to build a solid track record in renewables market. This is one lesson learned that we can for sure bring to Brazil to contribute with the energy transition. And then, of course, offer to the market low-cost solutions, standardization, and delivery times. I think it's important, as Elbia highlighted in her speech, you know, the speed will be crucial to attend the future demands in terms of energy. So then I think that we can contribute on this. We can also run projects in an efficient way. I think it's important to establish the right interface management so that we can connect some key areas of our organizations and provide the best solutions to the market. I think this is another key element that we can bring to Brazil as well. And of course, connect with low-cost solutions proposals, delivery times, and so on. Another important aspect that we can contribute, what Mauro mentioned in his speech, is also the supply chain. Supply chain, it's an area that we have to take in account that and ask ourselves how much the supply chain, how much are they prepared to support the market? Because when you talk about the big players, the tiers 1, okay, there is no problem. But when you talk about tiers 2, 3, and 4, so then I think that we have to consider this in this equation when you talk about energy transition, because we are not alone. I think that this is something that we have to bring to the table and discuss how we will develop the supply chain here in Brazil. Because we have some suppliers in Europe, in North America, but if you talk about logistic costs and so on, so this is not a low-cost solutions for anyone. So then this is another important aspect that we can take from our lessons learned as well. And then, of course, the innovation. As we are in the Innovation Week, innovation and technology is another key element in the market. Which solutions we will offer to solve global challenges as we have in our proposal? I think the experience that we have in Aker Horizons company and what we are developing the Aker Solutions Renewables as a segment, I think the innovation, the technology that we have been discussing a lot in different forums, in different places of the world, it's important to summarize and bring to Brazil what can be applied here in our country. I didn't mention so much the hydrogen, but we can connect what was said by Mauro and Elbia, the green hydrogen. We can contribute a lot with our unit in the Aker Horizons, Aker Clean Hydrogen. And then we can establish unique competencies, technology, and assets to have a commercial optimization. We have to be efficient in what we will offer to the market. So I think these are the main lessons learned that we can take from the last years, and I'm sure that we'll continue maturing our knowledge in terms of renewables and low carbon solutions, and we'll be ready to support the market in what they need.
Thank you very much, Dalton. It's crystal clear that we are increasing our knowledge. As Elbia also mentioned, we are starting to have the foundations that we need in order to see this market growing and growing. So undoubtedly, we have a tremendous potential in terms of energy transition. So we're not talking about only wind, but all the other players, technologies that compose this environment. So in that sense, Elbia, what we need to do to take leverage of all this potential, okay? Because we know that the potential is there, but we may think, okay, we have the potential for many other technologies in the past, and we let them away. So what we can do in order to secure this potential and really make Brazil an important or maybe the most relevant player in these technologies?
Yeah, it's a very important point because, as said Dalton, we have a lot to do about to construct the basis for supply chain and the value chain industry. We need to have in mind that the rest of the world is starting or it's run with projects, and it's not me a decision on in Brazil. It's a global competition for supply chain, because we know this industry for nature is industry that is concentrated because the scale. Then it's important for Brazil with potential to put a very important position in this process, and it needs to be about it right now. And Brazil needed to give a signs for market, for investors, that here is an environment to attract investments, that here will start and will run with projects in offshore. Because in the other hand, the other countries will attract this investment. And there are a lot of money, there are a lot of suppose investors that want to invest, but there are other potential countries that is very, very important to put position now. But how to put this position? In despite of our market or regulatory framework, is a market, the electricity sector in general here, energy sector here, has a natural role without the government. But for start this kind of industry, it's necessary to have a position from the government to give the first signs that we want to construct a strong industry for offshore wind. Mainly because we know that the first project in January, the first project starts with a regulating ocean. Then I think that it's important for the next year, mainly because we have the new government or the new administration, in spite of the same government, it's always the new government, to put an important position that Brazil will start with projects, Brazil will prepare ocean, Brazil wants to have install capacity for the next years, and it needed to give a clear position for investors. Because if you don't do this capital, these investors, you look for investments in other countries. It's very important to put the right position, and it needed to be in the short term.
Well, thank you for your thoughts, Elbia. And Mauro, I would like to raise the same question for you. What we need to do to leave the past behind, to be the country of the almost and be the country of realizations, of execution? What we need to do?
Yeah, I think we should do some measures to avoid losing the opportunity of this new wave of investment is about to come. We are talking about a lot of offshore wind here, but this is just one example of several wave of investments in the low carbon energy that are flowing around the world. As Elbia said very wisely, Brazil needs to set, there are maybe 2 or 3 things that Brazil needs to set quickly to give the right signals to the world. First of all is public policies, is to finalize the regulation of the offshore wind segment and advance a little bit more on the green hydrogen. So we have the minimum grounds for the private sector to make the investments. And by the way, private sector both in green hydrogen and in offshore wind, they are not going to wait until the full regulatory framework is established. They will run some risks because there are also upsides to be captured if they are the first comers. So, but public policies is certainly something that we need to advance. The second thing is to be absolutely obsessed by competitiveness when we are talking about the supply chain. The first and second tier of supply chain is not only the second tier of supply chain that is suffering. The first tier of supply chain of of offshore wind turbines, for example, they are losing money. You pick 4 out of the 5 biggest offshore wind turbine producers, they've been losing money. So there's something wrong in there. So the supply chain needs to be competitive, and the government needs to secure that there will be no additional burdens in these segments. So we are as competitive as other parts of the world. Because as Elbia said, this is a global industry. This is not about allocating capital in Brazil or in the UK or in the US. This is a global industry. Brazil needs to be as competitive as possible. Last but not least, I think there's a bit of a shift in mindset that the whole society needs to have when it comes to energy transition in Brazil. Brazil is extremely competitive on renewable energy. Shall we use this extremely competitiveness position in renewable energy to try to export energy in several shapes or forms? Or we should think about this as a great and unique opportunity to make our industry even more competitive and try to do some exports of manufacturing products instead of exporting energy in different shapes and forms. So that's a question that we need to answer, and we need to select very few segments where Brazil is already very competitive and try to add more competitiveness into those segments by having cheap renewable energy and produce products that can be exported and can gain a premium for being produced with green standards. I think that's the third part of the question that still needs to be more thought in Brazil. It's not very well. I mean, I don't see the stakeholders involved in the process very well aligned at this point. So that would be my thoughts around the issues, Leonardo.
Thank you very much, Mauro. And in perfect way of closing this session, as we are running out of time right now, so to leave the public with the questions and thinking about it. So for the questions that were not answered, we will be answering shortly in our channels. So thank you very much, Elbia, Mauro, and Dalton, for your presence here and for the very good presentation, very fruitful discussion here. And Leo, do you have any final remarks for that?
Yes, I also would like to thank the audience. And I'd like to add that definitely energy transition is not a buzzword. For Aker Solutions, mainly, we are serious about that. As I mentioned, a great portion of our revenue globally and in Brazil will come from the energy transition. We are here to make it happen. So be sure that Aker Solutions will play a key role in this segment. We are here for that. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
pra ligar. Oi? Ok.